see you.
Avatar: Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney+. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney+.
It will be an adventure for the whole family.
And watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar: Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Why so many gods? The four primary Vedas, namely the Rig, Sama, Atharva, and Yajur Vedas, represent the accomplishment of a highly developed religious system. The primary function and goal of these four Vedas was to encourage the satisfaction of material desires through worship of the demigods, or those divinities called the Vedic gods. Therefore, the Vedas provide numerous instructions on properly performing the necessary worship and specific sacrifices or rituals for these devas, demigods, to receive blessings that could enhance one's power and position, reach the heavens in the future, or achieve other goals. The argument posits that the devas influence and aid in every aspect of global governance and operations, encompassing the weather patterns and the recipients of specific luxuries like wealth, attractive spouses, a sizable household, and optimal health. For example, one could worship Agni for power, Durga Devi for favorable fortune, Indra for a favorable sexual life or plenty of rain, or the Vasus for getting money. The Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, widely regarded as the most significant aspect of Vedic knowledge, contains such instruction. However, this is to assist people in acquiring the necessary facilities to live a basic material existence. Our desires to achieve specific results prompt various actions, known as karmas. This is the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. However, this only encompasses part of the Karma Kanda segment, which aims to provide rituals for purifying our minds and actions as we pursue our desires, rather than restricting ourselves to merely obtaining all our material needs and desires from the demigods. Faith and steadiness in performing the ritual establish purification in one's habits and thoughts. This provides a gradual process of acquiring one's needs and working out one's desires while simultaneously becoming purified and free of them. Such consciousness purification can then lead us to a higher level of spiritual activity. The Karma Kanda rituals served this higher purpose. With this understanding, one can grasp the significance of rituals and continue to adhere to them in pursuit of material desires, thereby further entangling oneself in the material world. As a result, the focus of various Vedic texts shifted from rituals and prayers to a deeper understanding of one's spiritual identity and relationship with the Supreme, as they compiled and presented. These texts encompass the Upanishads, followed by the Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita, and eventually expanded to include the Puranas and other texts, to name a few. Thus, these Vedic Shastras, also known as spiritual books, elaborated on the spiritual truths found in the Vedas. They also emphasize that various gods, such as Vishnu or Krishna, considered the divinities capable of elevating one's spiritual consciousness and assisting in achieving moksha, or complete liberation from material existence. The other demigods are unable to provide such liberation, In other words, the entire collection of Vedic texts contains information on all levels of spiritual understanding. The highest levels teach a person how to stop wanting material things or needing to worship gods for them, as well as how to enter the spiritual realm, which is the highest spiritual goal.
Divinities?
There are generally two ways followers of the Vedic tradition view the Vedic divinities. Some adherents of the impersonal view believe that the Supreme is not a physical entity, but rather an impersonal force that creates everything akin to the great Brahman effulgence. They generally believe that all Vedic divinities are different forms or representations of the same supreme or absolute truth. Thus, it does not matter whether a person worships Shiva, Krishna, Ganesh, Murugan, or any other Vedic gods or goddesses, because they all represent the same absolute truth or God in various forms. This is true for the Lord Krishna avatars, but there are differences with the other devas, which will become clear as we go through this book. On the other hand, some individuals believe that the ultimate truth is ultimately a matter of personal preference. They believe that choosing Vedic divinities to worship matters, as each one provides unique blessings and outcomes and has a specific purpose. This is why some people ask why there seem to be so many gods within Hinduism or Vedic culture, and if so, which is best to worship? If we properly analyze the situation, we will see that all Vedic divinities have different purposes, and that only one supreme being with many agents or demigods manages the cosmic creation and natural forces within. Like any other demigod, when approached appropriately through prayer or worship, they can assist the individual in fulfilling specific desires under their authority. So, let us begin to explain. First, in some places in the early portions of Vedic literature, there are 33 Vedic gods, or as many as 33 million. We count the 33 gods as 8 Vasas, 11 Rudras, forms of Shiva, 12 Adityas, and Indra and Prajapati, Brahma. Then, other positions are considered major or minor devas. According to the Vedas, the devas are not imaginary or mythological beings, but agents of the supreme will to administer different aspects of universal affairs. They also represent and control various natural powers. Thus they manifest in our existence's physical, subtle, or psychic levels, both from within and without. A transcendentalist sees that behind every aspect of nature is a personality. These gods' names are considered offices or positions rather than the actual name of the demigod. For example, we may call the country's president by his name, Mr. President. The position itself allows him to have certain powers or areas of influence. In the case of the devas, only after accumulating much pious credit can a living being earn the position of a particular demigod. Then, a person may become an Indra, Vayu, or Brahma, or attain some other position in order to assume specific powers or control various aspects of material energy. Thus, such beings are not gods, but demigods. They merely have a position within this material creation as long as it remains in place, though some people may call them the Vedic gods for ease of conversation. Another example is walking into a large factory and observing the numerous workers and their tasks. At first, you might assume that these workers are the driving force behind everything in the factory. However, the supervisors, managers, and executives who oversee and direct the activities and flow of work are more important than the workers. Among these, you will find people of varying degrees of authority. Someone will be in charge of designing the products. Another person may be the chief financial officer or main accountant. Someone may manage personnel while another handles factory maintenance. Ultimately, a company's chief executive officer, also known as the president, holds the most significant position. With him, there may be company. Although you may not see the president directly, his influence is pervasive as all workers participate in projects based on his decisions. The managers and supervisors act as authorized agents to keep things moving accordingly. The numerous demigods act similarly to nature's functions, all representing some aspect or power of the supreme will. Hinduism sometimes asserts that there are 33 million gods. Every living entity possesses a form of God known as the Supersoul. Currently, there are over 8 billion humans on Earth, which means there are over 8 billion gods. There may be many forms, avatars, and aspects of God, but there is only one ultimate God, or absolute truth. God is a singular, all-encompassing source that is the foundation for all other creations. Another view of the Vedic devas, or demigods, is that they represent different aspects of understanding ourselves, particularly through yoga and meditation. Vayu, for example, is the god of wind in yoga, as is the breath and its control in pranayama. Agni is the god of fire and relates to the fire of consciousness or awareness. Soma refers to the samadhi bliss in yoga practice. Numerous Vedic gods symbolize specific yoga powers and correlate with the various chakras within the subtle body. People accept that, as they elevate their consciousness through the chakras, they will attain the level of awareness, power, and assistance associated with the specific divine personality associated with that chakra. Bhagavad Gita 3:10-12 explains the reciprocation between the demigods and society. The Bhagavad Gita states that in the beginning, the Lord of all beings created men and demigods along with the necessary sacrifices to Lord Vishnu. The Lord blessed them, saying that these sacrifices would enable men to prosper and attain all desirable things. With these sacrifices, the demigods will be happy and provide all the necessities of life, spreading prosperity to all. However, as explained, anyone who enjoys what the demigods give without offering it back is a thief. In this manner, people were recommended to perform sacrificial rituals to obtain their desires. However, these acts should demonstrate their reliance on the demigods and the Supreme Being. The Bhagavad Gita 3:14-15 further explains that all living beings exist on food grains produced from rain, which they obtain by performing prescribed sacrifices or duties. The Vedic literature describes these prescribed duties as manifestations of the Supreme Being. Thus, acts of sacrifice forever establish the Supreme. Despite accepting worship from humans and bestowing specific blessings on sacrifices, the demigods must elevate themselves to the level of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, an extension of Lord Krishna. The Rig Veda 1:22-20 explains, "The demigods are always looking to that supreme abode of Vishnu." Bhagavad Gita 17:23 also points out, "From the beginning of creation, the three syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth, Brahman. Brahmanas uttered these syllables during Vedic hymn chanting and sacrifices to satisfy the Supreme. The demigod worshippers also expressed their gratitude to Lord Vishnu for their prosperity by repeating the Vedic text's emphasis on Om Tat Sat. Since Lord Vishnu is the Lord of material liberation and the four Vedas primarily deal with material elevation, the demigods receive the majority of sacrifices. However, Lord Krishna points out in the Bhagavad Gita that men of little knowledge, drawn by worldly desires, find pleasure in the flowery words of the Vedas, which prescribe rituals for achieving power, riches, or rebirth in heaven. Their pursuit of enjoyment leads them to believe that there is no other purpose. However, Krishna goes on to explain, in Bhagavad Gita 7:21-23, that when a person desires to worship a particular demigod for the temporary and limited fruits they may bestow, Krishna, as the supersoul in everyone's heart, makes that person's faith in that demigod steady. However, Krishna alone, without whom no one possesses any power, bestows all the benefits bestowed by any demigod. Furthermore, Krishna explains that the worshippers of the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but the worshippers of Krishna reach Krishna's spiritual abode. Therefore, as one's understanding deepens, one should gradually abandon one's pursuit of fleeting material pleasures and focus on achieving the ultimate objective of Vedic knowledge. The prescribed duties in the Vedas for worshipping the demigods become unnecessary for one who possesses such knowledge and self-realization. As Bhagavad Gita 3:17-18 explains, for one who is fully self-realized, who is fully satiated in the self, and who delights only in the self, there is no duty or need to perform the prescribed duties found in the Vedas, because he has no purpose or material desires to fulfill. After understanding the information supplied, we can see how the different Vedic gods have particular roles or functions and represent or control different forces of nature. Thus, they are not all the same. They all possess unique abilities to perform specific tasks in the arrangement and management of the universe. Most have specific positions and purposes to help facilitate the cause of the universe's creation, maintenance, and even destruction. The most prominent Vedic gods are the trinity of Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. Brahma assists in creating the world, Vishnu maintains it, and Shiva assists in annihilation. I have dealt with this aspect extensively in my book, How the Universe Was Created, so I will not include that here. We can generally divide those who follow the Vedic path into three main categories: those who worship Shiva and are Shivites, those who worship Shakti, or the goddess, and are Shaktas, and those who worship Vishnu, the Vaishnav.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
So, let us understand the identity and function of Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga. One of the most significant of all the Vedic gods is Shiva. One of the most noted goddesses is Shiva's wife, Durga. They also go by many other names. For example, Durga is called Parvati and Sati, which means chastity. The name Shiva means auspicious. Shiva is also known by many different names according to his function. When he expresses himself through space and time, for example, he is known as Ishwara. People call him Sadashiva when he works through the air, incorporating the principles of both sound and touch. Shiva is known as Rudra when he operates through the fire, incorporating sound, touch, and form principles. Shiva is the embodiment and controller of Tama Guna, the mode of darkness, inertia, and the tendency toward annihilation. This is how he aids in the destruction of cosmic creation during the end times, contributing to the ongoing display of death and destruction that we witness every day. However, we can also view this demise and dissolution as a renewal, a concept associated with Shiva. The Srimad Bhagavatam 4.2.2 lists additional characteristics of Lord Shiva, stating that he is the spiritual master of the entire world. He has a peaceful personality, is free from enmity, and is always satisfied with himself. He is the greatest among all the demigods. He is considered the world's spiritual master because he exemplifies the proper way to worship the Supreme. He is considered the best of all devotees. Therefore, he has his own spiritual line, the Rudra Sampradaya, which comes directly from him. It is now contained in the Vishnusvami Sampradaya, or the Vallabha Sampradaya. People describe Shiva as the most powerful, second only to Lord Vishnu. In this sense, Shiva is not the supreme, but he possesses a power that is almost as great. Despite his lack of accomplishments in the material world, he consistently works for the betterment of everyone in this universe, aided by the material and dangerous energies of the goddesses Kali and Durga. They serve him by killing all kinds of demons and impious people. War represents Kali's energy of devastation. At times, images depict Kali in a fierce form, standing with one foot on Shiva's body. This is due to Shiva's occasional need to lie down in front of Kali to calm her down and prevent her from killing all the demonic individuals in the world. In this way, Shiva controls the material energy. Kali and Durga assist Lord Shiva in controlling the destructive energy known as Tamoguna, the mode of darkness. Durga helps him keep most living beings in the darkness of ignorance. For this reason, people describe Durga and Kali as dangerous potencies. This darkness only protects those who are serious about spiritual life. Often, depictions of Shiva show him as a handsome young man with long hair, from which a spurt of the Ganges river, symbolizing purity, and a crescent moon flow. He is also white or light blue in complexion, sometimes with a third eye between the eyebrows on the forehead, and usually with 4 arms, a sign of universal power, holding a trishula, a trident, showing his ruling proficiency over the 3 modes of nature. The Damaru, a small hourglass-shaped drum, the beating of which represents language or the alphabet, and exhibiting the mudras, hand positions of Abhaya, protection, and Varada, giving blessings. According to legend, Shiva's drum symbolizes Srishti, the creator. The Abhaya hand, which bestows blessings, symbolizes Sthiti, preservation. His downward pressing foot symbolizes Tirobhava, the veiling effect. And his uplifted foot signifies blessings, Anugraha, particularly the ability to see through the ego's veil of illusion. The image of him holding an axe symbolizes samsara, or destruction. He sometimes appears with 8, 10, or even 32 hands. These represent his various potencies and contain such things as an akshamala, rosary that signifies being the master of spiritual sciences, the katvanga, magic wand, that shows his being adept in occult sciences, a darpana, a mirror showing that the creation is a reflection of his cosmic form, a chakra, disc, a noose, a staff, a bow, a Pashupata spear, a lotus, a sword, and so on. He's often sitting on or wearing tiger skin. The tiger skin represents his command over his desires, often consuming commoners like a tiger. Snakes often encircle Shiva's arms, waist, neck, and hair. Snakes often invoke fear, so this represents how Shiva is free from fear. The snake also symbolizes time. If a poisonous snake bites someone, it is only a matter of time before that person will die. Time catches up with everyone sooner or later. Therefore, Lord Shiva reigns over both time and death. These serpents suggest that death surrounds him, but he remains immune to its influence. Ash from the cremation grounds is also visible on Shiva's body. This is called Vibhuti. It symbolizes death, detachment from the world, and lust. It also signifies that our bodies, as inert matter in their essential form, will transform into ashes upon our death or cremation. Thus, we must rise above bodily identification and become conscious of our real identity. Ash is a symbol of Shiva's complete renunciation of the world. Shiva occasionally appears, donning a garland of skulls. The skulls represent his status as the Lord of Destruction, as well as the cyclical nature of material creation's appearance and disappearance. The king of dances, Nataraja, represents one of Lord Shiva's most beautiful forms. Shiva holds his Damaru drum in his upper right hand, just as Nataraja does. This indicates nada, the sound of universal development. On the other hand, he holds a flame of destruction. Together, these indicate creation and destruction, the counterpoints of all material existence. He also holds his right hand in a position of blessing and protection. Nataraja also wears a tiger's skin, which he skillfully wields. This symbolizes the ego, which resists attack and necessitates defeat through the guru's knowledge or Nataraja's wisdom. The image of Nataraja depicts him subduing or standing on Mahamaya's body, personifying the illusion that causes all suffering. He raises the other foot upward, symbolizing the attainment of the Turiya state, which transcends waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and the influence of the mind and creation. Thus, he is completely free from all of these. Many stories relate to how and why Shiva appears the way he does. For instance, some depictions of Lord Shiva feature a third eye between his eyebrows on his forehead. His third eye is believed to symbolize the eye of wisdom or inner sight. The other two eyes represent a balanced form of love and justice. Thus, Lord Shiva is neither too harsh nor lenient, but views everything with the proper proportions of love, justice, and inner knowledge. Shiva's three eyes symbolize the sun, moon, and fire, symbolizing the illumination of the universe. One day, Shiva's wife Parvati covered Shiva's eyes with her hands, engulfing the entire world in darkness, which explains how Shiva acquired a third eye. Then, Shiva willed the third eye to manifest, which sent forth light, heat, and fire. According to another story, Shiva once accepted the heavenly Ganga river on his head, where it remained until it was ready for release. The Ganga river is considered to have entered the universe when the Supreme Lord, in his avatar as Vamana Deva, kicked the outer shell of the universe with his toe, thus letting in some of the water of the Karanadakashayi ocean, the spiritual water that surrounds the universe. This became the holy Ganga. Consequently, people revere it as the Lord's foot wash. As a result, Lord Shiva keeps this water on his head. People also believe that Shiva's Ganga water symbolizes the flow of knowledge and devotion to God. The Ganga water spout on Shiva's head signifies that Shiva is the foremost devotee of Lord Krishna, Vishnu, or Lord Rama. The Bhagavatam 10:41-15 relates, "The water of the river Ganga, Ganges, has purified the three worlds, having become transcendental by bathing your Lord Vishnu's feet. Lord Shiva accepted that water on his head, and by that water's grace, the sons of King Sagara attained heaven." According to another legend, many objects began to emerge from the ocean of milk as the demons and demigods churned it. One was the moon, which Shiva took and placed in his hair. Shiva wears this as an ornament, symbolizing the phases of the moon and the passage of time, as he remains unaffected by them. The crescent moon also signifies the happiness of life, especially when it is based on a spiritual purpose. Just as the rays of the moon nourish the vegetable kingdom, they also enhance one's inspiration and energy for spiritual life. It symbolizes the calming light of self-awareness and the ideal way to live life. another object emerged from the churning, revealing the severe poison that Shiva had drank to prevent its spread. However, Parvati, alarmed by this, grabbed Shiva's throat, preventing him from swallowing the poison and causing his throat to turn blue. Shiva is often portrayed standing next to or on his bull, Nandikeshvara, or Nandi, meaning joyful. Symbolically, Nandi represents animal tendencies, such as the urge for sex, which are tamed and docile by Lord Shiva's mastery over them. Thus he rides on Nandi, who is obedient to Shiva's command. Nandi also represents strength and virility. In Shiva temples, Nandi often reclines in front of the main shrine, gazing toward the image of Shiva. Nandi also symbolizes the Jivatma, the individual soul, and the animalistic impulses that, if not curbed, will drag it into material existence. Shiva works to benefit everyone and tries to help living beings advance spiritually. This is why he has his own line of disciplic succession. Any person who surrenders to the Supreme Personality of God, Lord Krishna, the controller of everything, is very dear to me, he says to the sons of King Prasinibarhi. The king's sons were going to practice austerities to worship Lord Vishnu, and while searching for a suitable place, they found Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva's bodily luster resembled molten gold, his throat was bluish, he had 3 eyes, and musicians accompanied him, extolling his virtues. Shiva is the protector of the pious and those with gentle behavior. So he was pleased to speak to the princes the way he did. He continued this way. When a person directly surrenders to Lord Krishna or Vishnu in unwavering devotional service, they immediately ascend to the spiritual planets. I, Lord Shiva, and other demigods attain these planets only after the destruction of the material world. You are all devout followers of the Lord, and as a result I appreciate that you are as respectable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. This lets me know that my devotees respect and love me. Thus, no one can be as dear to the devotees as I am.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month, with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
In this way, a devotee of Krishna does not disrespect Lord Shiva, but worships him as the greatest of devotees of Lord Krishna. A Krishna Bhakta, devotee, also prays to Lord Shiva, but he asks Shiva to assist him in gaining Lord Krishna's favor, not just for material benefits. As we find in the Tulasi Ramayana, Uttarakanda, Doha 45, Lord Rama says, "With joined palms I lay before you another secret doctrine. Without adoring Sankara, Lord Shiva, man cannot attain devotion to me." So in this way, Shiva can assist us in attaining devotion to Lord Krishna and his expansions. After Lord Shiva had spoken to the sons of King Prasinabarhi, he related a mantra for their benefit, which is pure and auspicious for anyone who wants to attain the ultimate goal of life. The mantra known as Shiva's song consists of verses 33-79 from the 24th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam's 4th canto. He starts his prayer with this verse: "O Supreme Personality of Godhead, all glory to you. You are the most exalted of all self-realized souls. Since you are always auspicious for the self-realized, I wish you were auspicious. Your all-perfect instructions make you worshipable. Since you are the Supersoul, I offer my obeisances to you as the ultimate living being." Through the remaining 45 verses of this prayer, Lord Shiva praises the many qualities, characteristics and powers of the Supreme Being in the form of Lord Krishna. At the end of many years in which the sons of the king, called the Pratsetas, repeated this prayer every day, Lord Vishnu himself appeared to them. He declared, "I will bestow benedictions on those who offer me the prayers composed by Lord Shiva, both in the morning and evening. In this way, they can fulfill their desires and attain high intelligence." Also, in the Bhagavatam 4.64253, we can see Lord Shiva's greatness among the demigods. During the disastrous ritual of Daksha, who displayed profound dislike toward Shiva and Shiva's wife, Durga, Sati, immolated herself in the fire. Sati, Daksha's daughter, could not tolerate her father's insults toward her husband Shiva. So, while in meditation, she burst into flames. After that, Lord Brahma and the demigods went to pacify Lord Shiva. Brahma consoled Shiva, addressed him as "my dear Lord," and called him the controller of the entire universe, the combination of mother and father of the universe, and the supreme Brahman beyond this creation. We can see that Brahma, the universe's partial creator, praises Lord Shiva as superior. This is to appease Lord Shiva, since it is known that his anger can annihilate the universe. When the ritual continued and Daksha offered the clarified butter with the mantras from the Yajurveda, Lord Vishnu appeared in his original form as Narayana. As described in the Bhagavatam 4.7:18-29, as soon as Lord Vishnu appeared, all the demigods, including Lord Brahma, Shiva, the Gandharvas, and the sages, immediately offered their respectful obeisances. The glaring effulgence emanating from Lord Vishnu's body dimmed the radiance of everyone else. They all offered their prayers to him. Therein, Lord Shiva addresses Lord Vishnu, "My dear Lord, my mind and consciousness are always fixed on your lotus feet, which, as the source of all benediction and the fulfillment of all desires, are worshipped by all liberated sages, because your lotus feet are worthy of worship. People who blaspheme me, claiming that my activities lack purification, no longer disturb me with my mind fixed on your lotus feet. I do not mind their accusations, and I excuse them out of compassion, just as you show compassion toward all living things." After all the personalities had offered their prayers to Lord Vishnu, he replied to Daksha, "Brahma, Shiva, and I are the supreme cause of the material manifestation. I am the super-soul, the self-effulgent witness. But impersonally there's no difference between Brahma, Lord Shiva, and me. I am Godhead's original personality, but to create, maintain, and annihilate this cosmic manifestation, I act through my material energy, and according to different grades of activity, my representations are equally named. A person lacking proper knowledge may believe that demigods such as Brahma and Shiva are independent, or that living entities are independent. A person with average intelligence does not think the head and other body parts are separate. Similarly, my devotee does not differentiate Vishnu, the all-pervading personality, from anything or any living entity. Those who do not view Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or any other living entity as separate from the Supreme, and who are aware of Brahman, truly experience peace. Others do not. This demonstrates the demigod's interdependence on Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the ultimate cause of universal creation. As we will explain, Lord Vishnu gave birth to Lord Brahma, who gave birth to Lord Shiva. Lord Vishnu's energy, in the form of Lord Brahma and Shiva, creates and destroys the universe. Lord Brahma manifests to continue the creation, while Lord Shiva aids in the annihilation. This interconnection allows them to function as a unified entity. Despite playing distinct and significant roles in the affairs of the cosmos, they all remain dependent on Lord Vishnu. We can achieve real peace if we realize that all living beings are extensions of the Supreme Lord and his energy. In fact, it is believed that Lord Shiva, Brahma, and Lord Vishnu worship these sages and devotees who see with such equal vision. Once, when Lord Shiva was traveling, he met the legendary sage Markandeya as he came out of his yogic trance. At that time, Markandeya offered prayers to Lord Shiva, who blessed the sage and then asked if there were any benedictions that the sage wanted. As described in the Bhagavatam 12.10.19.22, Sutta Goswami said, Lord Shiva, the foremost demigod and the shelter of the saintly devotees, was satisfied by Markandeya's praise. Pleased, he smiled and addressed the sage. Lord Shiva said, Please ask me for some benediction, since among all givers of benedictions, we three, Brahma, Vishnu, and I, are the best. Seeing us never goes in vain, because simply by seeing us, a mortal achieves immortality. The inhabitants and ruling demigods of all planets, along with Lord Brahma, the Supreme Lord Hari, and I, glorify, worship, and assist those Brahmanas who are saintly, always peaceful, free of material attachment, compassionate to all living beings, purely devoted to us, devoid of hatred, and endowed with equal vision. These devotees do not differentiate between Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and me, nor do they distinguish between themselves and other living beings. Therefore, because you are this kind of saintly devotee, we worship you. In the Bhagavatam 4.3.23, Lord Shiva tells his wife, Sati, that he is always engaged in worshipping the Supreme Personality known as Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, who is revealed in pure consciousness by offering obeisances. As described in the Bhagavad Gita 11.15, Lord Shiva is subordinate to Lord Vishnu, Krishna, as he is also a part of Lord Krishna's universal form. We find, Arjuna said, My dear Lord Krishna, I see all the demigods and other living entities assembled in your universal body. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, along with Lord Shiva, many sages, and divine serpents. In Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavana, we discover that Lord Shiva had also tried to enter the Rasa Leela dance between Krishna and the gopis, the cowherd damsels. The Mahadeva Gopisvara temple in Vrindavana commemorates Lord Shiva's desire to become a gopi and enter the dance with Lord Krishna. Lord Shiva was trying to enter Sri Krishna's most confidential pastimes and devotions. In another light, Lord Shiva is Lord Krishna's brother-in-law. When Krishna was born in Vrindavana, Yasoda gave birth to a daughter, Katyayani or Durga, and Mother Devaki gave birth to a son, Lord Krishna. To save him from the nefarious King Kamsa, Krishna's father, Vasudeva, brought Krishna from Mathura to Gokul and exchanged him with the daughter of Mother Yasoda, taking the daughter back with him. When King Kamsa came to get the newborn from Mother Devaki, the child rose into the air and exhibited her form as the eight-armed Durga and chastised Kamsa. In this pastime, Durga is Lord Shiva's wife and Lord Krishna's sister, implying that Shiva is also Lord Krishna's brother-in-law. In another place in the Bhagavatam 8.12.10, when Lord Shiva was bewildered by the Supreme Lord's form as a beautiful woman, Mohini Murti, Lord Shiva admitted his weakness in being unable to fully understand the illusory nature of this material creation. O my Lord, I, the best of the demigods, along with Lord Brahma and the great rishis led by Marichi, hail from the mode of goodness. Nonetheless, we are bewildered by your illusory energy and cannot understand what this creation is. What can we say about others, such as demons and humans, who inhabit the base modes of material nature, Rajoguna and Tamoguna? How will they know you? Later, Lord Shiva, often pictured in meditation, explains to his wife who he meditates on while in trance. He says, O Goddess, you have now seen the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the unborn Master of everyone. Even I, one of the principal expansions of his lordship, succumbed to the illusion of his energy. So what can we say about those who rely solely on Maya? When I finished performing mystic yoga for 1,000 years, you asked me upon whom I was meditating. Now here is the Supreme Person, to whom time has no entrance, and whom the Vedas cannot understand. 5. Another time when Lord Shiva described his subservient position was when Lord Krishna was battling with Banasura, a devotee of Lord Shiva, and cutting off Banasura's hundreds of arms that he had acquired as a blessing from Lord Shiva. When it appeared that Banasura was about to lose his life, Lord Shiva, who had also been involved in the battle scene, approached Lord Krishna to pacify him and spare him. Sri Rudra said, "You alone are the absolute truth, the supreme light, the mystery hidden within the verbal manifestation of the Absolute, according to Bhagavatam 1063, 34-45. Those who have spotless hearts can see you. You are uncontaminated, like the sky." In the 10 following verses, Lord Shiva also addresses Lord Krishna in other ways. Your current descent into the material realm, O Lord of unrestricted power, is meant for upholding the principles of justice and benefiting the entire universe. We demigods, each dependent on your grace and authority, develop the 7 planetary systems. You are the original person, one without a second, transcendental and self-manifesting. You are the cause of all that is uncaused, and you are the ultimate controller. When Uddhava prayed to Lord Krishna, he said, "Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva act only as your instruments in cosmic creation and annihilation, which are ultimately done by you, the Supreme Lord, in your invisible aspect of time." Sri Shukadeva Goswami described one of the major differences between Shiva and Krishna as follows. Manifesting himself in 3 features in response to the entreaties of nature's 3 modes, he thus embodies the threefold principle of material ego in goodness, passion, and ignorance. The 16 elements have evolved into transformations of that false ego. When a devotee of Lord Shiva worships his manifestation in any of these elements, he obtains all sorts of corresponding enjoyable opulence. Lord Hari, however, has no connection with the material modes. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the all-seeing eternal witness who transcends material nature. One who worships him becomes similarly free from the material modes. 7. Therefore, a worshipper of Lord Shiva experiences results subject to material nature's effects, whereas a worshipper of Lord Krishna experiences liberation from material nature instead of material opulence. So, in this regard, Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and others are able to curse or bless one. Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are very quick to curse or bestow blessings, my dear king, but the infallible Supreme Lord is not. Understanding Shiva's purpose and how it relates to his appearance is another aspect of his position. The ancient Brahma Samhita text, verse 15, clearly explains this. The text states, the same Mahavishnu created his next expansion of Vishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, from his left limb, Brahma, the first progenitor of beings, from his right limb and from the space between his 2 eyebrows, Shambhu Shiva, the divine masculine manifested halo. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta explains that when the mundane creation of the universe manifests, the space between Vishnu's 2 eyebrows gives birth to the principle of Shambhu in the form of Rudra. Shambhu enshrines the materialistic ego principle. This principle identifies living with the material body as subject to material and bodily happiness desires. Brahma Samhita, verse 1, purport. So, Lord Shiva's power comes from Lord Vishnu's potency. The Brahma Samhita describes this as follows. The person embodying the material causal principle, Visamans, the great lord of this mundane world, Maheshvara Shambhu, in the form of the male generating organ, joins with his female consort, the limited energy, Maya, as the efficient causal principle. The Lord of the world, Mahavishnu, is manifest in him by his subjective portion in the form of his glance. So when Mahavishnu looks into the shadowy power of Maya during the creation process, Shambhu, who is the Lord of the Pradhana, the unmanifest material ingredients, and is the same as Rudra, breaks up with Maya, which is the principle that makes mundane energy possible. However, Shambhu can only do something with the energy of Mahavishnu, who represents Krishna's direct spiritual power. In this way, only when material creation arises does Mahavishnu, the plenary portion of Lord Krishna, be propitious towards the active endeavors of Maya, Shiva's consort, and the principle of mundane causality. Brahma Samhita, verse 10, purport. The Brahma Samhita, verse 45, more clearly describes the difference between Mahavishnu and Shiva as Shambhu as follows. Just as milk transforms into curd by the action of acids, but the effect curd has is neither the same as nor different from its cause, viz. Milk, so I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. In this verse, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta clarifies that Shiva is not a second Godhead other than Krishna. In fact, those who entertain such a discriminatory sentiment commit a major offense to the Supreme Lord. Shambhu's position is subservient to Govinda Krishna's. Hence, as the above verse indicates, they are not really different. However, just as yogurt originates from its primary source, Shiva also manifests from his primary source, Krishna, through Mahavishnu. Therefore, when God attains a distinct personality by adding a particular element of adulteration, such as the form of Lord Shiva or Shambhu, he assumes a subservient position to his direct forms. Through this form, the Lord comes into contact with the material energy, as Mahavishnu never touches the mundane energy. However, Shiva has no independent initiative or ability. This means that Shiva, as Shambhu, comes into contact with and interacts with the material energy as the agent of Mahavishnu, who does not come into such contact but only sets it all in motion. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta further describes that in this way, Govinda manifests himself as a plenary portion, which in this case is a guna avatar in the form of Shambhu, Lord of Tamoguna, or the mode of darkness. Thus, according to Govinda's supreme will, Shambhu works in union with his consort, Durga Devi, using his time and energy. Therefore, the real difference between Govinda and Shiva or Brahma is that all the majestic attributes of God are fully present in the form of Govinda, Krishna. Shiva and Brahma are entities adulterated with mundane qualities, however slight they may be. Even though Vishnu manifests divinity in the form of goodness, he remains pure. The appearance of Narayana as Mahavishnu, or as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Vishnu's expansion in each universe, and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, Vishnu's expansion as the supersoul within each living being, are examples of the ubiquitous function of the supreme divinity. Lord Vishnu is the Godhead, while Brahma, Shiva, and all other gods serve him. The different expansions of the Supreme Being, Govinda, are the same as the identical light appearing in different candles, all shining from the spiritual potency of Govinda, Krishna. Brahma Samhita, verse 46. Purport. This makes it clear that Shiva and Brahma's forms and positions are eternal, but only in the context of material creation's endurance. the annihilation of material creation removes the need for its forms and positions. Lord Shiva is the Lord of Tamo Guna and material nature, but not of the spiritual world. The description of Lord Krishna as the supreme being and controller of both spiritual and material energies is unique. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta further explains that Lord Krishna possesses 60 divine qualities in their fullest measure. 50 of the divine qualities of the individual jiva souls are present, along with 5 additional qualities in Lord Brahma. Yet, these 55 qualities are also present in Shiva, but to greater degrees than in Lord Brahma. Brahma Samhita, verse 49, purport. Thus, we have described Lord Shiva's position regarding his purpose and function within the material creation, and his form is simply an extension of Lord Krishna. This chapter's How Shiva and Durga are considered the mother and father of the universe section explains Lord Shiva's real position and identity. The previous paragraphs highlight how Lord Shiva participated in the creation process from Mahavishnu as Shambhu. However, this also pertains to Lord Shiva's personal appearance in this universe as Lord Brahma. The Bhagavatam 3.12.4 explains that Lord Brahma manifested 4 powerful sages named Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara at the beginning of the creation process. Brahma expected them to assist in filling the universe with various living beings. However, their high elevation prevented them from participating in materialistic activities. Brahma asked them to start procreating, but they declined, citing their attachment to Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Lord, and their focus on achieving moksha, or liberation. So they expressed their unwillingness, which made Lord Brahma extremely angry. Lord Brahma's anger erupted between his eyebrows, despite his attempts to control it. Immediately, a child of mixed red and blue colors emerged. This child immediately began to cry and asked Lord Brahma, "O Destiny Maker, Teacher of the universe, kindly designate my name and place." Lord Brahma then pacified the boy and said, "O chief of the demigods, you shall be called Rudra because you have cried so anxiously." Then Brahma gave Rudra the following places for his residence: the heart, the senses, the body's life, the sky, the air, the fire, water, earth, sun, moon, and austerity. He then told Rudra that he would be known by 11 other names: Manyu, Manu, Mahan, Shiva, Ritadvaja, Ugrareta, Bhava, Kala, Vamadeva, and Dritavrata. These names represent the other aspects of Lord Shiva, each having different appearances and activities. People often depict Rudra as tall, well-built, with long hair, wielding the thunderbolt, bow, and arrow. People view him as the guardian of humanity against its enemies. He is also an excellent physician, with numerous medicines that can cure diseases. Brahma also told Rudra that he would have 11 wives: Di, Driti, Rasala, Uma, Niyut, Sarpi, Illa, Ambika, Iravati, Svadha, and Diksha. Brahma then told Rudra to accept these names and wives, and since he was one of the masters of the living beings, he should now increase the population on a large scale. Rudra then created many offspring who resembled him in color, strength, and furious nature. They were unlimited in number, and when they gathered together, they attempted to devour the universe. Alarmed by the situation, Brahma requested that Rudra not create living beings of this nature. It would be better if Rudra engaged himself in penance or meditation, which is auspicious for all. Through penance, he was able to recreate the universe as it had been before. Only penance can bring one near the Supreme Lord, who is in everyone's heart, but beyond the senses. Thus, Rudra accepted the advice of his father, Brahma, and went to the forest to perform austere penances. This is why we often see Shiva pictured in the mountain forests, engaged in meditation. Some of Shiva's other names include Dakshinamurti, meaning a universal teacher. Then there is Trilokana, three-eyed, Nilakantha, blue-throated, Pancha Anana, five-faced, Chandrasekhara, moon-crested, Gangadhara, bearer of the Ganga, Girisha, mountain lord, Jatadhara, wearer of matted hair, Sthanu, immutable, Visvanatha, lord of the universe, Bhairava, the terrible destructive aspect of Shiva, Bhutesha or Bhuteshvara, lord of ghosts or elements, Hara, remover of death, Shambhu, abode of joy, Shankara, giver of joy, Pava, existence, Mahadeva, great god, Ashani, thunderbolt, Isha or Ishana, the ruler, Pashupati, the herdsman or friend of animals, Mrityunjaya, conqueror of death, Agora, non-fearful, Ugra, the fearful, Bhima, the tremendous, Rudra, lord of tears, as well as Shuli, Maheshvara, Ishvara, Sharva, Kandaparashu, Mrida, Kritivasas, Pinaki, Pramatadipa, Kapardi, S. Rikanta, S. Hitikanta, Kapalabrit, Vamadeva, Mahadeva, Virupaksha, Krishanuritas, Sarvajna, Durjati, Nilalohita, Smarahara, Bharga, Triambaka, Tripurantaka, Antakaripu, Kratutvamsi, Vrishadvaja, Vyomakesha, Umapati, Ahirbudnya, Ashtamurti, Gajari, Mahanata, and others. Chapter 17 of the Anushasana Parva of the Mahabharata and the Linga Purana, 165-98, contains Shiva's 1,000 names. Shaivism is one of the major traditions of the Vedic system. Shaivites accept Lord Shiva as the supreme deity, centered around his worship. The Vedas and Puranas reference Shiva worship, despite its origin predating recorded history. You will notice that a devotee of Shiva in India usually wears vibhuti or bhasma, the sacred ash, on his forehead, and rudraksha mala around his neck and elsewhere. The rudraksha or rudra bead represents the third eye on Lord Shiva's forehead. The Shaivite should worship the Shiva lingam with the leaves of the bilva trees, and his meditation should consist of chanting the Panchakshara, Om Namaha Shivaya. The philosophy of Shaivism covers a wide range of Hindu thought, from idealistic monism to pluralistic realism, depending on the locality. Over time, several Shaivite sects emerged, with the Pasupatas regarded as the earliest. The Shaiva cults have enjoyed immense popularity with village people across India, and they use a form of asceticism as a means of spiritual advancement. This includes rising above anger and greed, engaging in deep meditation, and concentrating on repeating the sacred syllable Om. Long, matted hair, often wrapped and piled on the head in a bun, distinguishes many Shaiva ascetics. They often wear a horizontal three-lined tilak mark on their forehead. Many initiates and Naga Babas also smear their bodies with ash, either from the sacred fire in their camp or from crematoriums. They chant mantras to free themselves from the bonds of material existence, and sometimes dance and sing to induce trance-like states. Depending on the school of thought, their practices have sometimes been unorthodox and met with opposition. The Shiva Purana provides extensive information about Shaivism's practices. The Pasupatas were Shaivism's earliest sect. They based their ideas on two works, both said to be by Kaundinya, the Pasupata Sutra, written around 100-200 CE, and the Pankartha Bhasya, 400-600 CE. They expanded primarily into Gujarat. The Pasupatas accept the idea of a supreme controller, but they do not follow the Vedas. They establish the existence of the Supreme through inference and say that the Supreme, whom they accept as Lord Shiva, is not the original cause of the material world, but is the operative cause in that he used the material ingredients that already existed to form the cosmic manifestation. Therefore, Lord Shiva's potency and material energy, commonly known as Shakti or Mother Durga, combine to create the universe. However, the conclusive Vedic literature maintains that Lord Narayana, Vishnu, the creator of the material worlds and all ingredients, created and subordinated demigods such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva to him. The Varaha Purana, Bhagavata Purana, Vishnu Purana, and many others specifically state that Narayana is the Supreme Personality, and from him Brahma was born, from whom Shiva was born. Therefore the demigods are not the supreme, but only dependent agents of the Supreme who work under his direction. Numerous verses in Vedic literature confirm this. Although some places describe demigods such as Shiva, Ganesh, Surya, Indra, and others as the rulers and creators of all, we should understand that almost all prayers to these demigods use similar terms. However, we should interpret the words in their etymological context, referring to Narayana or Vishnu, the origin of the demigod's power. Shiva's name is Pasupati, which means Lord of all souls. Ganesh means Lord of all beings. Surya means the goal of the wise. And Indra means the supreme ruler, all of which ultimately refer to the Supreme Lord, and that these demigods are his agents and represent the power of the Supreme. The Vedanta Sutras point out various contradictions in the philosophy of the Pasupatas, or Shaivites. Vedanta Sutras, or Sri Bhasya, 2235-41. It concludes that if one is serious about attaining spiritual enlightenment and liberation, he must avoid this questionable philosophy, for, despite the uncommon austerities and lifestyle of the Shaivites, their destination after death is not certain. Despite worshipping Shiva as the supreme being, they believe God is an unembodied void they try to merge into. Many accept Shiva or any other deity as a material manifestation of that void, or Brahman. Therefore, they must revise their understanding of the absolute truth and direct their spiritual realization process. The Vedic literature establishes Lord Shiva as one of the topmost devotees of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Many verses from the Puranas depict Shiva in meditation, elucidating his constant focus on the Supreme, Sri Krishna. This means that Shiva is a Vaishnava of the greatest caliber. In addition, he is one of the most important demigods in the universe. Therefore, as long as one understands Lord Shiva's real position and avoids the impersonalistic philosophy that most Shaivites follow, there is no harm in worshipping, offering respects to Lord Shiva, or visiting the temples dedicated to him. In this case, worshipping Lord Shiva is simply offering respect to a superior devotee of God who can help one along the way. In fact, as we have explained earlier, respect for Shiva is beneficial for such advancement. In addition to the Pasupatas, there are many other Shaivite sects. The Pratyabhijna Shaiva sect is based in Kashmir. Vasugupta, 800 CE, systematized them based on the Shiva Sutra and Spandakarika. Somananda, Utpaladeva, Abhinavagupta, and Kshemaraja expanded the latter with their commentaries, summarizing the teachings in their Pratyabhijna Bridaya. The Virasaiva, or Lingayatas, were another sect that received little attention until Basava, a Kannada Brahmana, developed them. They may have evolved from the Kalamukas and worshipped the Linga. The Shaiva Siddhantas were another South Indian sect that originated in the 11th and 13th centuries. They used Sanskrit texts, but the Tamil texts of the Nayanmar poets eventually overshadowed them, contributing to their bhakti, or devotionally oriented system. Moreover, the Lakulisha Pasupatas, who were also ascetics, were present. The Kapalikas dwelled on the cremation grounds. Kalamukas were ascetics similar to the Pasupatas. The Kashmir or Trika Shaivites had a threefold concept of God: Shiva, the Shakti energy, and the Anu, or individual. The Smart or Orthodox Shaivism practiced the Varnashrama system as enunciated in the Simriti literature, the Manu Samhita, and the Kalpa Sutra. Goraknatha is believed to have founded the Natha, or Kanfata Yogis, a Shaiva sect. This blended the Pasupata system with tantric practices and Hatha Yoga. Shaivism essentially consists of believing and accepting that Shiva is the absolute, that he is transcendental to time and space, and that he pervades all energy and existence. Shaivites believe that removing Maya and karma will liberate them from the shackles that prevent them from seeing their spiritual identity as equal to Shiva. They frequently chant obeisances to Shiva, such as Om Namaha Shivaya, or simply Namah Shivaya. If Shiva is pleased, he blesses his devotees with material opulence, and he can be easily pleased or quickly angered. Yet many people generally worship Shiva and Durga to obtain blessings from material facilities. In particular, the Saiva Siddhanta school summarizes Shaivism's basic process as follows: maintaining virtue, serving and worshiping; yoga, meditation. Knowledge acquisition leads to enlightenment and self-realization. To elaborate, the first step involves maintaining virtue and purity, which entails causing no harm to any creature, refraining from stealing, and upholding honesty, truthfulness, proper conduct, patience, dedication, compassion, and control over one's appetite. However, these are the basics of karma yoga and the building blocks of any spiritual process. The second step is to maintain discipline in sadhana, as well as spiritual practice and habits. This is when we control the mind and absorb consciousness into the higher purpose of life and activities. We also refer to this as kriya, which means structured physical exercises or techniques. There is also the worship of the image of the divine, or deity, to invoke the dormant spiritual love within us. Participating in puja and worship at a temple or ashrama, joyfully immersing oneself in Vedic wisdom, and chanting or singing are also part of the experience. The third step includes the performance of yoga, in which a person practices pranayama and pratyahara, breathing control to steady the mind and senses, and withdrawing them from external distractions. Then, through concentration and meditation, the practitioner becomes aware of God within. This practice may also activate the kundalini, which rises through the chakras. This practice reduces doubts, faults, mental weaknesses, ignorance, and even past karma. Then ecstasy and divine energy awaken. Ultimately, practice leads to nirvikalpa samadhi, the experience of the timeless and formless Parashiva. The fourth step is when a person becomes enlightened and self-realized. In this state, divine wisdom is a part of one's every move. Though still living in this mortal world, the person knows and perceives that he is not of it. He is of a different, transcendental nature. This is the result of all his practices: austerity, sadhana, and devotional love. No more does such a yogi experience the mind's or ordinary intellect's limitations. He is free of it, a jivan mukta, a liberated soul. The above paragraphs describe this process, which includes basic steps found in most forms of yoga, whether directly applied to Shaivism or not. However, in today's world, perfecting this system is challenging, and attempting it with the expectation of success may require greater accuracy. Nonetheless, The basic steps of this process encompass qualities and practices that can enrich anyone's life and aid in pursuing any spiritual path. Shivaratri is a festival in which all Shiva worshippers participate. The night of Shiva follows a typical pattern of preparation, purification, realization, and celebration. On the festival day, people will fast and spend the day focused on Shiva, meditating and chanting Om Namaha Shivaya. Thus, they offer their obeisances to Lord Shiva, maintaining a single-pointed concentration throughout the day. Shiva then manifests as the inner light of purified consciousness at midnight. This climax at night represents our overcoming dark ignorance and reaching a state of purified spiritual knowledge. We conquer the influence of the mind and senses demonstrated by staying awake all night, and enter a state of steady awareness wherein there is spiritual awakening. To truly experience Shivaratri, one must follow this process. One thing you may be questioning is why Lord Shiva is so often represented as a lingam. Linga is a sign or symbol. The lingam is a symbol of the shapeless, universal consciousness of Lord Shiva. Shiva also implies that creation remains dormant after annihilation. So one explanation is that the lingam represents the dormant universal consciousness in which all created things rest after cosmic annihilation. It also represents the pradhana, the potential but unmanifest elements of the material world. Another explanation is that Shiva means auspicious. As a result, the linga is the shapeless symbol for the great god of auspiciousness. The linga's purpose is to direct our attention to the shapeless unknown. The yoni, on which the lingam typically rests, symbolizes the manifest universal energy. All other things create the manifest energy, which originates from the unmanifest. The yoni, a symbol of Shakti, combined with the lingam, represent the eternal union of the paternal and maternal principles, the positive and negative, or the static and dynamic energies of absolute reality. All actions and changes are a result of the eternal consciousness and Shakti's dynamic power. It also symbolizes the universe's creation by combining Lord Shiva's active energy and Shakti. This is how Lord Shiva and Durga are considered the parents of the universe. The lingam and yoni symbolize the base of the spine, meaning the Muladhara chakra, upon which the Kundalini is resting, waiting for awakening. The Puranas provide a few different explanations for why people worship Shiva as a lingam, as well as how this came about, which I will discuss. There was a massive sacrificial ceremony that took place hundreds of years ago. They invited the revered sage Narada Muni to the ceremony and asked him who would receive the effects of the sacrifice. Since no one responded, the present sages asked Narada Muni who should receive the sacrifice's effects. Narada said that Sri Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva were all eligible, but they would have to find out which one had the most patience and purity to receive the sacrifice. Therefore, he chose Brighu, the legendary sage, to learn the answer. Brighu had many mystic powers and was able to travel to the demigod's domain. So first, he went to see Lord Brahma, but Brahma was preoccupied and did not notice Brigu's presence. Feeling insulted, Brighu cursed Brahma. "You are so proud of your power of creation. You did not notice my arrival. For this reason, you shall have no temples on earth." Thus, there are very few Brahma temples on earth. Next, Brighu went to see Shiva in Kailash, but Shiva also did not notice Brigu's arrival. Once again, feeling offended, Brighu cursed Shiva, limiting his worship to a mere lingam on earth. This explains why people primarily represent and worship Lord Shiva. as a lingam on this planet, rather than a personalized deity. Then, to continue the story, Brighu went to see Lord Vishnu, who also did not recognize Brighu's presence. Brighu was so angered that he went forward and kicked Vishnu's chest. Lord Vishnu apologized if he had hurt Brighu's foot, and he began praising Brighu. Brighu immediately felt pleased and understood that Vishnu was the most qualified to receive the sacrifice's offerings. However, Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune and Lord Vishnu's wife, was very dissatisfied by Brighu's action and, therefore, did not bestow much mercy on the Brahmanas, who, as a result, are often without much money. A Ba'ana linga, shaped like an egg, symbolizes Ishvara's lack of beginning and end. The Lingobhavamurti form of the linga is the prime manifestation of the formless, which Shiva is said to have manifested exactly at midnight on Shivaratri. This is why everyone stays up until midnight and then worships that form during the Shivaratri festival. Any important Shiva temple often features a representation of the Lingobhavamurti in a niche on the outside wall of the sanctum. In the temples, the lingas typically form three parts. The lowest part is the base square, called the Brahma Bhaga or Brahma Pitha, which represents the creator Brahma. The next part in the middle is the octagonal Vishnu Bhaga or Vishnu Pitha, which signifies Lord Vishnu, the sustainer. Both of these parts form the pedestal. The top cylindrical portion is the Rudra Bhaga or Shiva Pitha, also called the Puja Bhaga, since this is the worshipable part. The top portion also symbolizes the projecting flame of fire. This flame also symbolizes God's destructive aspects and his preserving power. India is home to 12 important Jyotirlinga, or self-manifesting linga temples. You can find them at Kedarnatha, Kashi Visvanatha, Somnatha, Baijnath, Ramesvar, Grisnesvar, Bhimasankar, Mahakala, Mallikarjuna, Amalesvar, Nagasvar, and Triambakesvar. The 5 Panchabhuta lingas in India are Kalahastisvar, Jambukesvar, Arunachalesvar, Ekambesvara at Kanchipuram, and Nataraja at Chidambaram. The temple of Lord Mahalinga at Tiruvidaimarudur, Madhyarjuna, is also magnificent in South India. People often worship Lord Shiva by pouring Ganges water over the lingam, symbolizing the Ganges' descent from heaven to Shiva's head. According to legend, when the Ganges first began to flow from the heavenly region to the earthly planet. To prevent this, Lord Shiva agreed to let the river first fall on his head before forming a river. Worshippers explain that pouring milk or Ganga water on the linga symbolizes the pouring of ghee on the sacred fire during the fire ceremony, or yajna. This is our symbolic offering to God. The Linga Purana contains a story about the Shiva Linga. It describes how Lord Brahma, the god of creation, and Lord Vishnu, the god of protection, once argued about who was greater. When those two powerful gods were fighting, Lord Shiva appeared as a huge pillar of fire that spread across the universe. He told Brahma and Vishnu that whoever found his flame's head or foot would be considered superior. Then Brahma transformed into a swan and set out to reach the flame's summit. To seek out the fire's foot, Vishnu took the form of a boar, but despite their efforts, they could not succeed in finding the limits. They recognized their mistake and Lord Shiva's peerless greatness. This demonstrates how the ego cannot approach Shiva but responds with love to those who surrender to him. Lord Shiva appeared as the fiery lingam for their benefit in this pastime. As a result, they gained a deeper understanding of how to worship his most ancient form. Lingodbhava is the name of this form of Shiva that emerged from the flame. This story appears in the Shiva Purana and other texts. This further illustrates how the lingam is not formless, nor really a form, but a symbol of Lord Shiva's divinity. In Sanskrit, linga also means mark. It is a mark or symbol of Lord Shiva, in the same way that large puddles of water indicate heavy rains. It implies something else, such as divine formlessness and omnipotence. Indian and Vedic cultures have worshipped goddesses for at least 4,000 years. Durga is the universe's goddess. Goddess Parvati, Lord Shiva's wife, is her form. She has up to 64 different forms, each with a different name. Each form symbolizes a unique pastime, power, or aspect of the goddess. The names of these forms of Durga are Ambika, Bhadra, Bhadrakali, Arya Durga, Vedagarbha, Kshamakshi, Naikabahu, Bhagavati, Katyayani, and others, such as Sati, which means chastity. People worship her in her gentle aspects, such as Kanya, Kamakshi, or Mukamba. The maiden name of Lord Shiva's consort is Uma, Parvati. She represents matter, Prakriti. Shiva is the god of destruction. Without objects to destroy, he has no meaning. Thus, he is paired with Uma. The Narada Purana, 1.3.13-15, lists many other names for Durga. The Supreme Lord regards her as his Shakti, referring to her as Uma, Bharati, Girija, and Ambika. The ancient sages designate her as Durga, Bhadrakali, Chandi, Mahesvari, Kaumari, Vaishnavi, supreme potency of Lord Vishnu, Varahi, potency of Lord Varaha, an avatar of Krishna, Aindra, Shambhavi, Brahmi, connected with Lord Brahma, Vidya, spiritual knowledge, Avidya, nescience, Maya, the illusory energy of the Lord, and Para Prakriti, the supreme primordial nature. Other aspects of Durga are accompanied by different names, and each name often carries a story. We won't recount every story, but we can summarize some additional names. These include Lalita, a beautiful goddess who lives eternally in Sripura on Mount Meru with her spouse, Shiva Kameshvara. Annapurna is the form of Parvati, who blesses the household with food. Aparajita means Durga, the invincible. Bala means child. When Daksha insulted her husband, Shiva, Bhadrakali, a manifestation of Mahakali's wrath, fought alongside Virabhadra, the embodiment of Shiva's wrath, to destroy Daksha's sacrifice. Bhairavi is the Devi with the power to cause terror, one of the 10 aspects of Shiva's energy. Bhavani has a different name. Bhutatma is the mother of the Bhutas, or ghosts. Dakshayani is Durgathi, Daksha's daughter. Gauri is Shiva's yellow or golden wife. Indrakshi has eyes similar to Lord Indra's, and Indra often worships them. She can also alleviate incurable diseases. Jagadatri is the one who keeps the world going. Katyayani is Devi, who was once Kata's daughter. Parvati is the daughter of Parvata, the personification of the Himalayas. Rudrani is the wife of Rudra. Tripura Bhairavi is the Shakti of Shiva, and when he is the ruler of death, Tripura Bhairavi is Shiva's. People often picture Durga as a beautiful woman wearing red clothing. She may have 4, 8, 10, 18, or 20 hands and 3 eyes. Items in her hands can include a conch, disc, trident, bow, arrow, sword, dagger, shield, rosary, wine cup, and bell, all representing her different potencies. She may also be standing on a lotus or riding a lion. The lion represents power, but the animal desires food and other sensual objects. Her riding on the lion represents that she keeps all such tendencies under complete control. The Devi Bhagavat, or another text known as the Durga Saptashati, is part of the Markandeya Purana and contains all of Durga's details. The name Durga means one who is difficult to know. Despite her status as the mother of the universe, love allows us to approach her. it is also natural for her to show love to her children. All materially conditioned living beings absorb Durga's personification of material energy in their thoughts, actions, and identities. She is also considered the power of sleep, or the Yoga Nidra, in which Lord Vishnu rests between creative cycles. She is also the personification of wisdom and knowledge. Her energies permeate the universe. She embodies sacrifice or penance, as well as the highest knowledge. She is most beautiful, but fierce and terrible. She can dispel difficulties and kill demons. Mahishasuramardini is another one of her popular forms. Often depicted in this form, she wields 8 arms, each armed with a weapon, and defeats the demon Mahishasura in his bull-like form. The gods, namely Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, and others, created her out of their anger and powers, and their weapons became her weapons. Thus, riding on her fierce lion, she fought and killed Mahishasura and his army. The demon symbolizes the self-centered tendency to rely solely on physical force to fulfill one's selfish desires. He triumphed in his battles with the gods, allowing their combined might and determination to emerge as the Devi, Mahishasuramardini, who subsequently vanquished the demon. Symbolically, Durga destroys the buffalo demon, representing Tamoguna, the dark quality of laziness, ignorance, and inertia. So she destroys the Tamoguna within each of us, which can be very difficult to overcome. Her wrath, which sometimes manifests as war, is another one of her qualities. Such war cleanses the world of the many negative elements accumulated from a sinful society. Later, the demons Shumba and Nishumba challenge the gods, prompting them to petition the goddess. This time, she manifested herself as Kaushika Durga, also known as Ambika from Parvati's side. Ambika's beauty attracted the demons, who then wanted to marry her. She vowed to marry the one who could defeat her in battle. But all such attempts were disastrous. They were unsuccessful, even with the help of giants such as Dhumralochana, Chanda, Munda, and Raktabija. Then, from her forehead, Durga manifested the fierce, dark goddess Kali, who became known as Chamunda, for beheading the demons Chanda and Munda. When she engaged in combat with Raktabija, she had to exert extra effort because of his powers, as each drop of his spilled blood had the potential to transform into another demon. Kali managed to drink all his flowing blood and prevent any additional demons from manifesting. Thus, Durga was able to kill him. She then easily killed Nishumba, but Nishumba accused her of accepting help. The Devi then withdrew all her emanations into her own form, battled, and killed Shumba. Another name for Durga is Vaishnava Shakti, which refers to Lord Vishnu's creative power. She is also known as Vindyavasini, Raktadanta, Shatakshi, and Shakambari. According to the 3 modes of material nature, Devi also manifests as Maheshvari, who takes the forms of Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasarasvati. These are distinct from the goddesses Lakshmi and Sarasvati, as we will explore later. In Mahakali, she is considered the personification of the Tamoguna, or mode of darkness and sleep, or inertia. She is also known as Maya, or Lord Vishnu's illusory energy. We can eliminate this to uncover our true spiritual essence. Within this illusion, seemingly evil and divisive powers exist. Often depicted in blue, she wields 10 hands, each clutching a unique weapon such as a sword, disc, mace, arrow, bow, iron club, lance, sling, human head, and conch. Mahalakshmi is Rajaguna's passionate aspect. This aspect depicts her as red, symbolizing her determination to combat evil forces. She has 18 hands holding a rosary, pot, club, lance, sword, shield, conch, bell, wine cup, trident, noose, and disc. She is responsible for killing Mahishasura. The sattvic aspect, or goodness and purity, is represented by Mahasarasvati. She is light in color and has 8 hands that hold a bell, trident, plow, conch, pestle, disc, bow, and arrow. She is the manifestation of beauty, work, and organization. She, as Kaushika Durga, manifested herself in Parvati. She is the one who destroyed the demons known as Dhumralochana, Chanda, Munda, Raktabija, Nishumba, and Shumba, all of which are certain aspects of the ego principle. Kali is another goddess commonly seen in temples and pictures. Typically, pictures depict her nude, with her scattered hair serving as a veil. She has a dark complexion. She wears an apron of human hands and a garland of human skulls. And she sometimes carries a human head in one hand, freshly severed and dripping with blood, and a long chopper in another. The other 2 hands offer blessings and protection. Her tongue protrudes, dripping with blood. She frequently appears amid dead and mutilated bodies on a battlefield or on a cremation ground. She occasionally stands atop her spouse, Shiva, whose body is white or blue. To keep her from destroying everything, he supplicates her in this way. This implies that Kali represents time, which devours everything in terrifying ways. She is naked because she is free from the veil of ignorance that the universe represents, which hides our real spiritual identity. She is black because she represents Tamaguna, or the void that has swallowed everything, including space, time, and the ingredients of material nature. Her hand apron indicates that she is pleased with our work offerings, so she wears them. It also represents the inward potential for the outward manifestation that awaits. Her disheveled hair represents her freedom to go and do as she likes. The garland of 50 skulls represents the 50 letters of the alphabet or sound from which the whole material manifestation has sprung and is now in a state of destruction, as indicated by her wearing them. Though she is awesome, her hand gestures offer freedom from fear. A further explanation of why Goddess Kali stands on Shiva is that once Kali engaged in a battle, she destroyed all the demons. She danced in victory to such an extent that the world shook in destruction. Everyone became concerned, prompting Shiva to intervene and stop her from continuing her dance. However, she was so agitated that she could not see or hear him. So Shiva lay like a corpse at her feet to absorb the shock of her movements, and when she finally noticed that she had stepped on her husband, she put her tongue out in shame. Durga, the personification of material energy, is Lord Krishna's maidservant, and she conducts herself according to the will of the Supreme. Her shadow is material energy, Maya. Durga takes on the form of a beautiful demigoddess with 10 arms, symbolizing the 10 types of material activities. She rides her lion, indicating her heroic actions. She is the subduer of vices, represented by the image of her trampling the demon Mahishasura. She is the mother of her sons, Kartikeya and Ganesha, who represent beauty and success. She is armed with 20 weapons, symbolizing the various pious activities enjoined by the Vedas to suppress vices. She also carries a snake, which symbolizes a destructive time. The term Durga also refers to a prison house or fort. Therefore, the material world resembles a prison from which it is difficult to escape. Dur signifies difficulty, while Gie refers to the process of escaping. Therefore, escaping this material world is difficult without enduring numerous hardships. But one who takes refuge in spiritual potency can escape the illusory nature of the material world. Thus, the material prison of the universe confines living beings when they forget their spiritual nature and the service of the Supreme Being, Krishna. Durga oversees this aspect of cosmic creation. However, devotees of the Lord on the spiritual path to reclaim their true nature are free from this prison-like universe. Durga does not affect them. Yogamaya is Durga's spiritual form. Mahamaya, or illusory energy, is Durga's external form. Durga's spiritual form, which functions on the platform of Shuddha Sattva, is a pure transcendental existence and is understood to be Krishna's sister, known as Ekanamsha, or Subhadra. 9. The name Subhadra means auspicious. So Subhadra also paves the way for the devotee's spiritual progress by supplying that which is auspicious and taking away all that is inauspicious. This is Durga's spiritual form, the shadow of which is external material energy. We should note, however, that Durga works in the material world. Subhadra plays the part of Lord Krishna's sister. In the material world, she does not work like Durga. So, originally, their energy was one and the same. But through her expansion as Durga, she works in a different capacity within the material realm. Furthermore, Radharani, Lord Krishna's consort, has a higher quintessence of spiritual energy than Subhadra. She is the personification, essence, and origin of Lord Krishna's pleasure potency, heading Shakti. This pleasure potency of Lord Krishna expands to become Radharani for the sake of the most intimate spiritual pastimes on Goloka Vrindavan, the topmost spiritual planet. This potency expands further into the forms of Krishna's queens on the other Vaikuntha planets, and as his sister Subhadra for other purposes and pastimes. Durga is an extension of this internal or spiritual energy. In this way, Durga can also be considered an extension of Radharani. As a result, Radharani is the source of the spiritual pleasure essence, whereas Durga provides the means for all pleasure in the material realm. So herein, we can understand that Mahamaya in the material world is an expansion of Yogamaya in the spiritual world. The difference in function is that Yogamaya governs the spiritual sky, whereas Mahamaya governs the material world in her partial expansion. In the spiritual world, Yogamaya protects the devotees, allowing them to forget the Lord's greatness and enjoy loving pastimes with him as his friends, parents, servants, and so on, without feeling overwhelmed by his omnipotence. On the other hand, Mahamaya in the material world keeps the living entities forgetful of their true eternal nature as long as they have no spiritual inclination. It keeps them superficially content with material happiness. So Yogamaya helps bring the devotees together with the Supreme Being in various relationships, while Mahamaya keeps them separate, or at least makes it seem they are separate through the principle of forgetfulness. Another way to understand this is to say there are two energy divisions, material and spiritual. The original energy is spiritual, Krishna's Shakti potency, his pleasure potency, all spiritual joy and happiness. This is also the original form of Durga, who is indistinguishable from this spiritual energy. But she takes on a different form in the material world. The partial expansion of the Hladini potency is Mahamaya, which also acts like a covering for the Hladini Shakti potency, which is the pleasure of our spiritual nature and connection with the Supreme. She confuses the conditioned souls in the material world, leading them to believe they find happiness in material pursuits. In this way, the materialists remain covered by their attraction to their desires for a sense of pleasure due to Mahamaya, and the devotees and transcendentalists become absorbed in spiritual pleasure through Yogamaya, or the heading Shakti. Through Yogamaya, the religious attain happiness or joy in their spiritual pursuits and experience liberation from the material realm. Subhadra's work provides what is auspicious and takes away what is inauspicious for sincere seekers on the spiritual path. Therefore, one must successfully navigate the test of material energy to gain entry into the spiritual realm. It also protects the spiritual atmosphere from those who are not sincere. This is also one of Durga's functions. In the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Krishna Janmakanda 118:35, Durga talks with Shiva about how she is an expansion from the highest realms and explains herself in this way. I am Mahalakshmi in Vaikuntha, Srimati Radha in Goloka, Shiva, connected with Shiva, in the region of Shiva, and Sarasvati in the abode of God Brahma. Thus, from the highest levels of the spiritual domain, she expands herself to include all other Shaktis or potencies. The Narada Purana 1.3.27 also explains that regarding Lord Vishnu, his Shakti is the powerful Maya, the trustworthy upholder of the universe. Scholars call it Prakriti because it is the material cause of the universe. This illusory energy, Maya, plays an important part in the creative process of cosmic manifestation. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.5.25, Maitreya explains to Vidura that external energy works as cause and effect in cosmic manifestation. She calls this external energy Maya, or illusion. Her agency makes material manifestation possible. The Lord divides Maya, the external energy, into two parts. Maya is the efficient cause, and Prakriti, or cosmic manifestation ingredients, are the other part. 10. The Srimad Bhagavatam 10.6.3.26 defines the pradhan aspect of Maya as time, activity, providence, the destiny of the conditioned souls, and nature. These elements, along with the vital force or energy, the subtle material ingredients, the material nature known as the field of activity for the conditioned souls, the 11 senses, the senses of perception and organs of action, and the 5 elements, earth, air, fire, water, and ether, make up Maya. As a result, Lord Krishna is the creator, and Maya only serves as an instrument. It is this Maya, or material nature, that the Lord glances over, becomes agitated, and into which the Lord injects the seed of life as the original living entities. Subsequently, the interactions between the Lord's glance and his energy, which mix with Maya, give birth to the myriad universes. So, Maya, or material nature, is merely the secondary cause of creation. However, it fulfills 2 functions. First, it holds the subtle material elements, and second, it triggers the material manifestation through the resulting changes. The Brahma Samhita 5.19 also clarifies the original separation of the primary material elements. Then the spiritual power of the Supreme and the potency of his knowledge moved Maya. Combining effective, or spiritual power, with Maya's inactive material causal principles, causes the elements and other entities to work together. Thus, through this combination of energies, the material creation can manifest, and the spiritual living beings appear as the materially conditioned souls within the material elements of the creation. A graphic description explains that Maya appears like a huge pot filled with innumerable universes, each one like a mustard seed within it. Another function of Maya is to cover living beings with material energy, thus keeping them in illusion as to their true identity. This sort of forgetfulness is one of the main principles of the material world, without which living beings could not engage in material life. If it were too obvious to living things that they are spiritual, they would not be satisfied with material pursuits or bodily sense pleasures. So this forgetfulness must be there to help provide a playground for the materially conditioned souls who are rebellious and want to live outside of God's kingdom. This is Maya's third function, which encompasses all living entities. As explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam 8:14. 10. People in general are bewildered by the illusory energy, Maya, and therefore they try to find the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, through various types of research and philosophical speculation. Nonetheless, they are unable to see the Supreme Lord. This is further explained as follows. The Supreme Lord's internal power is spiritual. The marginal potency consists of living beings who can lean towards spiritual or material energy. The material energy itself, Maya, also known as nescience or darkness, is the Lord's third potency. It is this Maya that makes the living entity godless and fills him with the desire for fruitive activity and a sense of pleasure. Thus, under the influence of the nescient potency, which obscures his spiritual position, he endures the triple sufferings of material existence. These three miseries of material existence include those that come from the body itself, those caused by other living beings, and those caused by natural occurrences. Due to such illusions, living entities cannot comprehend the truth of creation, leading them to roam the material world for numerous lifetimes. However, living beings are independent in determining whether they want to engage in material or spiritual activities. Misusing this independence to turn toward the dark side separates living beings in varying degrees from the spiritual light. However, when living beings align with God and strive to restore their spiritual essence, they can revert to their original spiritual state and find relief from material existence. The Maya cloud only covers spiritual living beings, affecting their consciousness. Therefore, the goal of any genuine spiritual path is to remove this cloud and the influence of illusory energy. If a religious system cannot do that, then it is incomplete. The Brahma Samhita 544 also explains that Maya is like the shadow of the Lord's Chit, or knowledge potency, and is worshipped as Durga, the creation, preservation, and destruction agency of this material world. The Shakta tradition is another of Vedic culture's three major traditions. Shakti is the embodiment of Shiva's power or energy. She has the power and support of the entire universe. Thus, she is the universal mother. Shakta is someone who worships Shakti, or divine feminine energy. Shiva represents eternal consciousness in this tradition, while Shakti represents mind and matter. The Shaktas believe that divine energy, called Shakti, is the original active and creative principle of existence. Shakti is the feminine energy inherent in everything throughout the universe, and in her personified form she is considered Lord Shiva's companion. The Rig Veda and other later works contain the original ideas of the Shakta belief. However, the Vedanta Sutras 2.242-45 highlight some essential faults with the Shakta philosophy. For example, assuming that Shakti, or energy alone, can be the world's independent cause, is a partial understanding. We cannot create energy alone without the cooperation, direction, and facility of the energetic, in this case the Creator or Supreme Being. Energy must have a source, i.e., vigor. Thus, as explained in the previous section, this Shakti is ultimately the energy of the Supreme Lord. She is not and cannot be the world's sole cause. She works most closely with the energy of the Lord, in the form of Lord Shiva. The Supreme is the source and controller of the energy, just as the powerhouse is the source of the electrical energy controlled to illuminate so many light bulbs. Thus, energy cannot exist without energy. Thus, conclusive Vedic authority did not support the Shakti cult's followers, who believed energy was the world's origin. energy alone cannot create all of the universe's elements. In the same vein, we do not see a woman produce children without the presence of a man. A woman can only conceive with the energy of a man's seed. Similarly, Purusha, or God, can control and direct Shakti, or nature, to organize the material elements. As explained elsewhere in Vedic literature, everything originates from the Supreme Being, and Shakti is not independent. We divide the Shaktas into two groups, the right-hand group and the left-hand group. The right hand, or Dakshinachara, is the ascetic group, while the left hand, or Samachar, combines their yogic exercises with practices often considered more unorthodox, called Panchakarma, or the 5 M's. These are Madhya, wine drinking, Mama, meat eating, Matsya, fish, Mudra, parched grain, Maithuna, ritual sex, and ceremonial songs. Most of the time, sacrificial rites for worshipping the goddess Durga include drinking wine, eating meat, and engaging in activities. Tantrism shares similarities with yoga and the magical formulas of the Atharva Veda. The Tantric path's ascetic process is similar to the Raja and Kundalini yoga systems, but before going on to the advanced stages, one must perfect the basics, such as simplicity, kindness, devotion, prayer, self-analysis, and the yama and niyama principles described in Raja Yoga. Tantra is a path that utilizes all sciences to develop psychic power, understand reality, and expand awareness in all states of consciousness. By performing various exercises and techniques, one can explore all levels of consciousness. However, the training and procedures that some tantric yogis may have to undergo as a sign of advancement can be a daunting experience for someone who is not psychologically prepared. Performing what most people consider unusual, if not bizarre, practices leads to detachment from the body and advancement on the path. Tantrism, especially the left-hand path, primarily achieves progress and liberation through direct experience, not meditation. The ritual ingredients and experiences also induce different levels of consciousness. Once the tantric yogi has mastered all the basic requisites of yoga, such as sitting postures, controlling the external and internal organs, and keeping the mind away from all material attractions and repulsions, he can continue with more arduous austerities. They may instruct him to visit the cremation grounds, sift through the ashes, and identify and consume specific parts of a corpse that do not burn. He must do this without the slightest disgust. This is more extreme. Practices were mostly for adepts with experience in the left-hand path. These practices would induce a deep detachment from praise, pride, shame, and disgust, which could hinder one's journey toward supreme bliss. One metaphor describes these practices as removing a thorn with a thorn. It is to break social norms, transcend body consciousness limitations, and attain Shiva. The path of the right-hand tantric is not as extreme. It uses tamer or more harmless symbolism in rituals, or ignores the severe rituals altogether. Some tantric followers also incorporate magic and alchemy into their methods. It is well known that tantrics who know the art of magic can possess amazing but dark powers. Such sorcerers' apparel usually includes items like flayed animal or human skin as coverings, necklaces of teeth or bone, and a girdle of snakeskin, and they sometimes cover themselves with the ashes of cremated bodies or the dirt from an exhumed corpse. Elements used in their rituals may include charred bones, eyeballs, fat, marrow, and even excrement from corpses, as well as mantras used to call or address the dead demons and ghouls. The tantric may also turn a human skull into his eating bowl, or the top of a monkey skull into a drinking cup. Some also use the human thigh bone as a horn to summon spirits. Ceremonies such as the Black Ritual, a secret and dangerously short path to occult power, use these kinds of items. In Tibet, a ritual known as the Chod involves the tantric practitioner visiting a crematorium and inviting spirits to feast on his body, symbolizing the destruction of ego, pride, selfishness, fear, etc. Be so focused on this that the tantric can hear the ghouls masticating as they devour him. After the spirits have dined and departed, the tantric, recovering from the ordeal, mentally reassembles his bones and organs until he is whole again. Another aspect of this black ritual is known in Tibet as rolangs, in which the tantric, through occult powers, animates a dead corpse by calling spirits to possess it, and then asks it questions, or uses it for magical purposes. If the yogi remains sane and continues on the left-hand Shakta or tantric path, he may also try to perform the sex ritual. In this case, the tantric yogi worships the woman as a representation of Shakti, accepts Shiva's role, and has intercourse with her without ejaculating any semen. The tantric controls his mind and senses, and during intercourse, constricts his stomach muscles in particular ways so that he takes in the fluid and energy released by the woman. Thus, he combines his male and female energies at the base of his spine. By combining male and female energy, the practitioner is believed to gain special power and enlightenment. Kundalini, at the base of the spine, is believed to awaken when a yogi begins meditation. However, some descriptions of these sex practices are very strange, and the texts that describe them are quite graphic. Despite witnessing these tantric practices and acts of sorcery during his world explorations, Marco Polo reportedly did not deem it appropriate to provide a comprehensive account of his observations. This, however, is only one aspect of the tantric cult. Other prominent techniques include mantra, pranayama, meditation, etc., as described. These days, in the West, people use certain tantric practices as an excuse to engage in sex in the name of so-called spiritual exercises, religion, or yoga. Although they hardly know anything about the real tantric practices or bother to reach any of the initial yogic qualifications one must attain, they are very eager to engage in so-called tantric sex with the hopes of increasing the duration of their orgasm. This, however, was the exact opposite of the real purpose of the ritual. Extended orgasm is believed to deplete the yogi's mystic powers and mental and psychic capacity. Even Buddhist texts mention that keeping the seed, semen, is life, while the seed falling is death. This way, retaining one's semen can make a man very powerful. When explaining the Tantras, the root tan signifies expansion. As a result, Tantra entails expanding the meaning of Vedic knowledge. The Tantras are the texts studied by those, especially amongst the Shaiva and Tibetan Buddhist Vajrayana cults, who worship Shakti, the goddess personification of the universal feminine energy. These tantras are dialogues between the goddess Shakti and Shiva. Agamas are the questions posed by the goddess Shiva, while nigamas are the questions posed by Shiva to the goddess herself. The agamas contain descriptions of a variety of topics, such as deity making, temple and altar construction, and so on. They may also elaborate on the 5 main topics, which include creation, universal annihilation, worship of the gods, the attainment of the 6 superhuman faculties, and the main methods of meditation that bring union with the Supreme. Certain tantras also contain magical or mystical formulas that some practitioners use for their own purposes. The tantras generally accept Shakti as the creative force, worshipable as an aspect of the divine. but inseparable from the masculine principle called Brahman by some and Shiva by others. However, the Tantras often employ irregular Sanskrit to conceal their secrets within the language. Additionally, some of the Tantras employ a significant amount of erotic symbolism and esoteric terminology, limiting their meaning to only those who are initiated. This has resulted in a misinterpretation of its ideology and practices, particularly among Westerners, who mistakenly perceive an overabundance of connotations that are not actually present. It is not straightforward to date the formation or appearance of the Tantras. Scholars propose that North India and Assam were the primary locations for their development, while some scholars remain uncertain about the origins of Tantrism in Buddhism or Hinduism. Evidence indicates that specific Buddhist schools were the first to systematize Tantrism. This systematization divided Buddhism into major and minor groups because of philosophical differences. All such groups assisted in laying the groundwork for various radical ideas, including Tantrism. Tantrism greatly influenced the Vajrayana and Mahayana sects. Some scholars date the Buddhist Tantras, such as the Hevajra, to somewhere earlier than 400–700 CE. Other Tantras include the Nityashoda Shikarnava, Yogini Hridiya, Tantra Raja, and Kulanava, all dated between 1000 and 1400 CE, as well as the later Mahanirvana Tantra. However, those Tantras related to the older Vedic texts must have been earlier. For instance, it is believed that Lord Shiva spoke the Narada Pancharatra to Narada Muni, and Srila Vyasadeva later compiled it 5,000 years ago. There are, however, different Tantras for different people. For those in darkness, there are Tantras Tamoguna, passion, Rajoguna, and goodness, Sattva Guna. There are the Shaiva Agamas, the Shakta Agamas, and the later Tibetan Buddhist Agamas, as well as the Linga, Kalika, and Devi Puranas. We divide the Agamas into 4 parts: metaphysical knowledge, yoga, ritual practices, and conduct. There are 28 Shaiva Agamas, 77 Shakta Agamas, and 108 Pancharatra, or Vaishnava Agamas. The Vaishnava Tantras include the Narada Pancharatra, Vaikanasa, the Gotamiya Tantra, the Brihad Gotamiya Tantra, and others like the Lakshmi Tantra. These contain rules and regulations for purifying the mind of the stumbling blocks of material attachments and fixing the consciousness of the qualities and spiritual pastimes of the Supreme. The Narada Pancharatra focuses on Lord Krishna, while some sections also discuss Radha. Ramanuja wrote his Agama Pramanya to show the Vedic connection of the Vaishnava Pancharatra texts. The difference between the Vaishnava Tantras and the Tantras of the left-hand Shaktas is that they remove the illusion that the physical body is the self, along with the need for performing unorthodox bodily activities for spiritual advancement. Simultaneously, the left-hand Shaktas emphasizes using the body to achieve magical powers, rapid illumination, wealth, high position, or quick liberation. To be successful on the left-hand path is very difficult, and the aspirant can rarely persevere to the end. Our partial description of the tantric left-hand path reveals that such philosophy and activities deeply embed themselves in the mode of darkness, tamo guna. While some people may require this level of experience in this life, tampering with this path typically leads to an increase in illusion, selfishness, and pride, as well as the potential for disease, evil-mindedness, insanity, and even sudden death. This is unsurprising, as anything associated with the dark modes typically yields intense, dark, or questionable results. On the other hand, the Vaishnava Tantras aim to bring one to a higher state of consciousness, a loftier awareness of our real identity as spiritual beings and our relationship with God, without unorthodox activities. It enables one to feel inner joy and happiness by reawakening one's awareness of their spiritual identity. Soon, the obstacles, material attachments, and insurmountable desires had no effect. A serious follower can feel himself progressing very rapidly. As a person attains a higher spiritual taste, he becomes less concerned about bodily attractions and is content in any situation, whether in gain or loss. His unity with God increases, and he becomes perfectly satisfied. Through his spiritual realizations, he soon leaves material consciousness behind and reaches the perfection stage of life. Durga is therefore known as the Universal Mother because the Supreme Being's glance over Durga's energy, Maya, sets in motion the universe's creation. 14. People consistently refer to material nature as a female. She, Mother Nature, or the goddess. In the Vedic tradition, Durga represents the essence of Mother Nature. Lord Shiva, considered the universe's father, unites with Durga. According to the Vayu Purana, Shiva is an expansion of Sadashiva, a direct extension of Lord Krishna. Sadashiva appears to engage in various pastimes. In the spiritual realm, Sadashiva is one of the eternal Vaikuntha planets. His consort is Ramadevi, a form of Lakshmi. In the material world, she expands into Mahamaya, where she is known as Durga. Thus, the spiritual Sadashiva and Ramadevi again relate to Shiva and Durga, the origins of material nature. The Brahma Samhita 5.68 provides a more detailed explanation of Lord Shiva's role during the creation. It states that Lord Krishna, the Lord of Gokula, the topmost planet in the spiritual sky, is the supreme Godhead, the very self of eternal ecstasies. He is busy enjoying the transcendental realm and has no connection to mundane, illusory material energy. He does not stop his spiritual engagements. When he intends to create the material manifestation, he merely glances over the deluding energy, which transforms into his temporal potency. Krishna's expansion of Mahavishnu in the causal ocean points to material energy. This glance from Mahavishnu is the efficient cause of creation. The dim halo of this glance, the reflected effulgence, is Shiva in his form as Shambhu, the symbol of masculine mundane procreation. The Supreme Lord associates material energy with this form of Shiva. In his role as Shambhu, he is the principle by which Mahavishnu impregnates the material nature with the seeds of innumerable living entities. Otherwise, the Supreme Being is unrelated to material energy. The Brahma Samhita 5.10 explains that Shambhu Maheshvara is the dim reflection of the Lord's glance and the Lord of the Pradhana, who embodies the seed of all living beings. Pradhana is the unmanifest material ingredient that later forms the cosmic manifestation. It is Shambhu who comes forth from the Lord's gaze. Mahavishnu creates Shambhu from the space between his two eyebrows. Furthermore, Shambhu joins with Maya as the male organ or power of regeneration. But he cannot do anything without the power of Mahavishnu, who represents Krishna's direct spiritual power. Therefore, the necessary changes in material energy cannot happen unless facilitated by the will of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. As further described in Brahma Samhita 5.16, Shambhu originates the mundane egoistic principle for conditioned souls. This means that Shambhu is the source of an individual's tendency to forget their spiritual identity. This forgetfulness leads the individual living in this material world to seek enjoyment from the material experience. This is because he thinks he is the material body. This false identity makes all conditioned souls want to continue living in the temporary mundane world. This is the role that Shambhu or Shiva plays in the Supreme Lord Krishna's creative process. Mahamaya and Durga, as previously explained, continue with this principle of forgetfulness. On the other hand, Shiva is an extension of the Supreme Lord Krishna, as described above. He is not a second god that acts in place of Krishna. Some believe he is committing a transgression against the Almighty. He is neither jiva nor a mere marginal spiritual soul. The Brahma Samhita 5:45 clearly explains that while acids transform milk into curd, it remains neither entirely different nor identical to its source, milk. As a result, the state of Shambhu is a transformation of the work of destruction, which originated with the primeval Lord Govinda. In other words, Lord Krishna manifests his energy through Mahavishnu, whose glance produces the form of Shambhu, Shiva, to perform various tasks without giving up his completely spiritual activities or coming into direct contact with the material energy. Through Shiva, the Supreme Being associates with his material energy in the form of Maya. He does not do so directly. Thus, Shiva is not really different from Krishna, yet he remains subservient to him. The distinction is similar to that between yogurt and milk. Yogurt is a modified form of milk that changes its function by adding a specific acid. Similarly, the Supreme Being expands and changes into the distinct personality of Shambhu by adding a certain adulterated element to perform a particular function connected with material energy. Later in the creative process, Lord Brahma creates Rudra, another form of Shiva, from this form of Shambhu. So, we have learned another aspect of how spiritual energy expands to create material energy. Thus, ultimately, everything comes from Lord Krishna. He expands into the forms of Mahavishnu and then Shiva and Durga, who are considered the indirect mother and father of the universe and are themselves expansions of Sadashiva and Ramadevi from the spiritual Vaikuntha worlds. Another point, as previously mentioned, is that the glance of Mahavishnu over Maya is the element of time, which starts the agitation within the energy of Maya, or the pradhan. This starts the process of creating and separating the various material elements. We have identified this time element as Shambhu, the destructive principle's personality. It is also Shambhu in the form of Rudra, who later appears to bring about the universe's destruction at the end of time. So, Shiva is considered an expansion of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, Krishna, and is called Hara. He is transcendental in his material qualities. However, when he destroys the world at the end of time, he connects with the mode of ignorance, also known as Tamo Guna, and becomes one of the living entities known as Rudra. It is further explained that Lord Krishna expands a portion of his plenary portion, Lord Vishnu, who assumes the form of Rudra when it is time to dissolve the cosmic manifestation. Lord Vishnu does this to accept the association between the material mode and ignorance. Thus, Rudra is just another expansion of Lord Krishna's energy, not a personal one. Rudra has a variety of forms, which are transformations brought about by the different degrees of association with Maya. Although Rudra is on a higher level than the Jiva Tattvas, the individual living beings, he still cannot be considered a personal expansion of Krishna. Therefore, we regard him as an empowered Jiva. Although many people worship Lord Shiva, Shiva worships Lord Krishna. According to the Shiva Purana, Shiva is the supreme because he governs the material world. After all, he assists in annihilating material creation. So he has power over the universe. But no scripture says that Shiva is the supreme lord of any Vaikuntha planet, Goloka, Vrindavan, or any part of the spiritual domain. Such precincts belong only to Lord Krishna and his personal expansions. That's why we always see Lord Shiva immersed in meditation. He meditates on Lord Sankarsana, represented by the snakes on Shiva's body. Shiva, the origin of the mundane, egoistic principle, can liberate one who worships Lord Shiva as a devotee of Sankarsana from the false, material ego. Images of Shiva performing his Tandava dance of destruction are common. As an expert dancer, he performs the Tandava dance of destruction with 4 hands, 1 leg raised and 1 leg dancing on the Apasmara Purusha. In 2 of his hands, he holds the Damaru drum and fire. The drum symbolizes a sound that either supports or carries. This is a sign of continued creation after annihilation or destruction. Fire represents the Pralayagni, or the fire of universal destruction. Thus, Shiva holds the symbols of cyclical universal creation and annihilation. The other 2 hands represent protection and blessing for those who take refuge in him or his spiritual knowledge. The Apasamara, upon whom Shiva stands, symbolizes the ignorance that makes us lose our clarity and consciousness of our real identity. This also signifies our succumbing to the death process without spiritual preparation. Shiva dances on this ignorance to benefit the devotees who seek refuge. The Puranas describe how Shiva aids in cosmic annihilation. The Vishnu Purana, Book 6, Chapters 3 and 4, explains this process of cyclical destruction at the end of each day of Brahma. The Vishnu Purana explains that the earth almost exhausts itself at the end of 1,000 cycles of the 4 yugas, a day of Brahma known as a kalpa. A severe scarcity of food ensues, which lasts 1,000 years. Because of the lack of food, all beings become weak and slow, eventually perishing entirely. Lord Vishnu then assumes the character of Rudra, a form of Lord Shiva, the destroyer, and descends to reunite all of his creatures within himself. He enters the 7 rays of the sun, causing all moisture in the oceans, rivers, soil, and living bodies to evaporate. The whole earth is dried up. Thus fed with abundant moisture, the 7 rays dilate into 7 suns, the radiance of which glows everywhere, and sets the 3 planetary systems and the lower system of Patala on fire. These suns consume the 3 planetary systems, causing their mountains, rivers, and seas to become rugged and deformed. The earth alone remains devoid of moisture, resembling a turtle's back. Then Lord Hari, in the form of Rudra, the fire of time and destroyer of all things, becomes the scorching breath of Anantasesha, Sankarsana, and reduces the lower planetary system of Patala to ashes. The great roaring fire ascends through the universe to earth and destroys it. A vast whirlpool of flame then spreads to the higher regions of the demigods, putting them all to ruin. The flames enveloping the 3 planetary systems resemble frying pans, devouring everything in their path. The inhabitants of the upper planetary systems then mystically move higher to Maharloka, and when that becomes too hot, those who desire final liberation depart for the higher regions of Janaloka. Elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, 5.25.3, it explains how Lord Shiva plays a significant role in the final and ultimate annihilation of the universe, which occurs at the end of Brahma's 100-year life. At the time of devastation, when Lord Anantadeva, Anantasesha Sankarsana, desires to destroy the entire creation, he becomes slightly angry. Then a 3-eyed Rudra appears between his 2 eyebrows, carrying a trident. This Rudra, known as Sankarsana, is the embodiment of Lord Shiva's 11 Rudras, or incarnations. He appears in order to devastate the entire creation. The Brahma Purana, 124.16, describes how the imperishable Lord Krishna assumes the form of Rudra to bring all the elements and living beings back into himself in the annihilation process. After Shiva appears in this way, he begins to do his dance of dissolution, dancing wildly to the beat of his drum. At the moment of dissolution, Lord Shiva scatters his hair and pierces the rulers of the different directions with his trident. He laughs and dances with pride, scattering their hands like flags as thunder scatters clouds worldwide. Lord Shiva's dancing creates such a disturbance that it attracts clouds, inundating the universe with water as the annihilation process progresses, as detailed in my book, The Vedic Prophecies. In the Sri Sanatkumara Samhita, from the ancient Skanda Purana, we find a conversation between the revered sage Sri Narada and Lord Sadashiva, the master of the demigods. From text number 26 to text 30, Narada Muni asks Lord Sadashiva, "O Master, please tell me what method the people of Kali Yuga may adopt to easily attain the transcendental abode of Lord Hari, Krishna. O Lord, what mantra will carry the people from this world of birth and death? So everyone may benefit. Please tell me. O Lord, what mantra needs no purascharana, Nyasa, yoga, samskara, processes of purification or initiation, and nothing else? A single utterance of the Lord's holy name gives the highest result. O Master of the demigods, please tell me the Lord's holy name, if I can hear it." In texts 31-35, Lord Sadashiva answers, "O fortunate one, your question is excellent. O you who wish for the welfare of all, I will tell you the secret Chintamani, wish-fulfilling jewel of all mantras. I will tell you the secret of secrets, the most confidential of all. I will tell you what I have yet to tell the goddess's elder brothers. I will tell you 2 peerless Krishna mantras, which are the crown jewels of all mantras. One is Gopijana Vallabha Charanau Sharanam Prapadaya. I take shelter at the feet of he who is the gopis' beloved Krishna. This mantra has 3 compound words, 5 individual words, and 16 syllables. The second mantra is Namo Gopijana Vallabhabhyam. The mantra pays homage to the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, who hold a special place in the hearts of the gopis. This mantra has 2 words and 10 syllables. In texts 36-41, Lord Sadashiva continues, "One who either with faith or without faith once chants this 5-word mantra resides among Lord Krishna's gopi beloveds. There's no doubt about this. When chanting these mantras, there is no need for pushcharana, nyasa, arishuddhi, mitrashuddhi, or other kinds of purification. There is no restriction on time or place when chanting these mantras. All, from the lowest outcast to the greatest sage, can chant this mantra. Women, Shudras, and all others are eligible. The paralyzed, mute, blind, and lame are eligible. Even if they were born from sinful wombs, the Andras, Hunas, Kiratas, Pulindas, Pukashas, Abhiras, Yavanas, Kankas, Kashas, and all others are eligible. Those overcome with pride and ego, intent on committing sins, killing cows and brahmanas, and being the greatest of sinners also qualify. Those without knowledge or renunciation, those who have never studied the Shruti Shastra and other scriptures, and all others, regardless of their identity, are also eligible to chant these mantras." In texts 42-48, Lord Sadashiva explains who can chant these sacred mantras and their purpose. Anyone who has devotion to Lord Krishna, the master of all masters, can chant these mantras. Even the greatest sages cannot chant them for lack of devotion. Individuals who have engaged in numerous yajnas, rituals, donated alms, visited all sacred sites, demonstrated dedication to truth-telling, embraced the renounced order, journeyed to the remote regions of the Vedas and Vedangas, faithfully served the Brahmanas, hailed from virtuous families, and adhered to austerities and vows but lacked devotion to Lord Krishna are ineligible to recite these mantras. Therefore refrain from speaking these mantras to those who lack devotion to Lord Hari. those who are ungrateful, proud, or faithless, and those who are atheists or blasphemers. It is not appropriate to speak these mantras to someone who does not wish to hear them, or has not stayed in the speaker's ashrama for 1 year. Give these mantras with care to someone genuinely devoted to Lord Krishna and free from hypocrisy, greed, lust, anger, and other vices. Lord Sadashiva is the sage behind this mantra. The meter is Gayatri. The deity is Lord Krishna, the beloved of the gopis. The purpose is to serve the dear Lord Hari, says Lord Krishna, the gopis' beloved deity. In text 53, Lord Sadashiva says, by once chanting this mantra, one attains success. There's no doubt about this. Still, to chant Japanese, one should recite this mantra 10 times daily. In texts 54-77 of the Sri Sanat Kumara Samhita, Lord Sadashiva describes the most nectarian meditation of the mantras, after which he continues with many additional topics regarding the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and the importance of the land of Vrindavana. O best of Brahmanas, now I will tell you the meditation on this mantra. I meditate on two-armed Lord Krishna, who is dark like a monsoon cloud, dressed in yellow garments, garlanded with forest flowers, and crowned with a peacock feather, and garlanded with lotus whorls, whose face is splendid like 10 million moons, whose eyes move restlessly, whose forehead is marked with the tilaka of sandal paste and musk, who is splendid with earrings like 2 rising suns, whose perspiration-anointed cheeks are like 2 glistening mirrors, who with raised eyebrows playfully glances at his beloved's face, the tip of whose graceful raised nose is decorated with a glistening pearl, whose bimba fruit lips are splendid in the moonlight of his teeth, whose hands are splendid with bracelets, armlets, and jewel rings, who holds a flute in his left lotus hand, whose waist is splendid with a graceful belt, whose feet are splendid with graceful anklets, whose eyes are restless with the nectar of amorous pastimes, who jokes with his beloved, making her laugh again and again, and who stays with her on a jewel throne under a kalpa vriksha, wish-fulfilling tree in Vrindavana forest. One should meditate on Lord Krishna and his beloved. On the Lord's left side, one should meditate on Sri Radha, who is dressed in blue garments, who is splendid like molten gold, who with the edge of her garment covers her graceful lotus smile, whose restless chakraba eyes dance on her beloved's face, who with her forefinger and thumb places betel nuts and crushed betel leaves in her beloved's lotus mouth, whose full, raised breasts are decorated with a glistening pearl necklace, whose waist is slender, whose broad hips are decorated with tinkling ornaments, who is decorated with jewel earrings, finger rings, toe rings, bracelets, armlets, and tinkling golden anklets, whose limbs are graceful with the best of beauty, who is always in the prime of youth, and who is always plunged in the nectar of bliss. O King of Brahmanas and her friends who share similar ages and qualities, devotedly serve her with cameras, fans, and other articles. Please listen, O Narada, and I will explain the meaning of these mantras. The Lord's Maya potency, as well as other external potencies, manifest in the material world. The spiritual world manifests the Lord's Chit, spiritual knowledge potency, as well as other internal and everlasting spiritual potencies. Lord Krishna's beloved Gopi Sri Radha is believed to protect these potencies. Goddess Da, the transcendental goddess, is Lord Sri Krishna's direct counterpart. She is the central figure for all the goddesses of fortune. She has Lord Krishna's potential for pleasure. The wise say that she embodies Lord Krishna's potential for pleasure. Durga, along with the other goddesses in the world of the 3 modes, constitutes a mere minuscule portion of one of her manifestations. We refer to her as Goddess Mahalakshmi and Lord Krishna as Lord Narayana. There is not the slightest difference between them, O best of sages. What more can I say, O best of sages? Without them nothing could exist. Spirit and matter combine to form this universe, demonstrating their potency. She is Durga, and Lord Hari is Shiva. Lord Krishna is Indra, and she is Shachi. She is Savitri, and Lord Hari is Brahma. She is Dumorna, and Lord Hari is Yama. O Narada, please know that everything has its potency. Even if I had many hundreds of years, I could not describe all their glories. Thus Lord Shiva encourages everyone, most potently and practically, to make rapid spiritual development. The Vedic pantheon's main deities are the divine personalities described here. In addition to these devas, the Vedic pantheon recognizes numerous other beings as possessing godlike status or presiding personalities over areas of power, directions, planets, or special living entities. Others live in higher dimensions or subtler realms. These include beings such as the Gandharvas, angels, apsaras, heavenly dancing girls, Prajapati, progenitors, Siddhas, perfected beings expert in the mystic sciences, Vidyadharas, wisdom-bearing spirits, the Pretaks and Bhutas, ghostly beings, Upanayana, fairies, and numerous other minor local village gods and goddesses, emphasized according to their orientation and traditions.